but I mean, being a professor is in the sense of performance, right? Like
there is a performative element. That is
you guys
true.
You guys are like a big theater troupe, okay?
That's part of it. Yep.
Howdy, y'all. My name is Dylan Wu with the Austin Beacon. I am seated here today with Professor David Ruth, who is the Dean of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics here at the University of Austin. Just to get started, I'm curious, like, what was the kind of decisions that led you to decide to come and teach at a brand new university?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dylan. So I love to teach. I think I've always expected at some point I'd be involved in the teaching enterprise, and my Navy career led me to the opportunity to be a full-time professor at the Naval Academy, and so that confirmed for me that was a great choice. Or the University of Austin launch, at least the announcement of its birth, so to speak, happened right as I was looking for new work. My wife and I met and married in Austin. I did a graduate program here at UT Austin, so I was already thinking about the Austin area as a place that might be great to come back to. And so to see a great new thing being launched in an area that I was interested in anyway got me super excited. And then the more I learned about it, the more I wanted to get down here.
Awesome. And something that I was particularly excited about coming to UATX after learning about the STEM program. So what is the difference between teaching STEM in the 21st century versus how we normally teach it?
So the full range of liberal arts, of course, includes mathematics and science and things like that. And so on the one hand, our liberal arts curriculum that all students will share will have a very solid math and science lift. Have no doubt. And yet we intend to be excellent in science, technology, engineering, mathematics for students that want to endeavor to study some area in detail. At least two things that I think we'll be able to do that will be markedly 21st century. So the first is that because we're starting over really from the ground up, we can think about how to bring the best ideas and the best sort of foundations for students to do STEM learning in a way you would do it as if we were in a century that involved, say, computing resources. So we're going to bake right in from the beginning. When you're in your very first classes, we're going to leverage the strength of computing and, of course, the internet and AI and things like that to enable the learning we want the humans to do, the exploratory learning, the learning more about ideas and less about mechanics and things like that. If you think about a problem there's sort of a formulation side where you have to think about what problem I'm actually solving and how do I turn that problem into some sort of formulation that will succumb to computation, right? Mm-hmm. This formulation step, that's actually a very rich human endeavor. That takes some thought. And how can I formulate that in a way that a computer is going to help me do the hard stuff? If you could imagine doing more and more complicated levels of the entire procedure and having to gain familiarity with the tools as you're using them in greater depth, you probably learn to use the tools together, or you learn to use the tools better, but you also start to see how these tools work together in ways that I think is very, very valuable. It's very important, and most students just don't get exposed to the tools in that way. Right. What a math class often looks like in high school is just someone asks you to believe that a certain math problem is important, and then they just teach you how to turn the crank, do the thing that a computer will do better than you ever will anyway. And then you get an answer. The answer is x equals 7 or x equals, whatever else. And then you just check the back of the book, and if it was 7, I'm happy. If it's not 7, I'm frustrated. And we never think about 7 what? Or how would 7 have changed if I changed one parameter on the input?
Right.
How much does it matter that it's 7.00 or it's 7 plus or minus 5? These are interpretive elements of a problem that you really need a human for. So, so in the setting where we have computational power like we do now, we can spend more time formulating and abstracting and modeling. We can spend more time interpreting, imagining how I'm going to apply this answer, and then we dial down some of the time that you would have done the hand cranking and let a machine do the thing.
Right. Because I had originally thought that it would be, much more liberal arts focused, but it sounds like you guys really have a robust vision for STEM-oriented learning moving forward, kind of 21st century STEM?
I think if you hear people talk about VOTEC schools or vocational learning in general, I don't think they're thinking as much about vocation as a calling and vocation as an element of flourishing as an adult human, going out and finding out what you're going to do to make the greatest impact in the world. And so we're partnering with companies and building relationships with the technology environment here so that students learning and the opportunity to do with companies is going to be sort of a part of what's baked into the curriculum here. And I think that'll look a lot different than what people see at other schools.
Right. And it seems like there's this kind of appreciation of the beauty of mathematics as well.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because all of this that I've described so far is immensely wedded to the notion that math and science learning has great application, but it does have immense beauty. That's really what got me really interested in mathematics, is that there is an aesthetic delight that comes from studying, well, for me, studying mathematics and relationships, and there are relations where that number that pops up everywhere in the universe even pops up in places where there's no place at all that it's evident that the ratio of a circle's circumference and diameter was anywhere under the hood. And that, to me, that points to this notion that the universe has order and structure, and mathematics, I think, helps people. That gives a special avenue to appreciate that beauty a little more. It drives me to want to explore the details of it. At least I think that's a thing that the beauty and the structure does for me as a person who is interested in the world around me.
So I was speaking to a student recently, or a student who wanted to apply to UATX. He wanted some more information about the school, and he was particularly interested in comp sci. Do you have an answer, like kind of in general, of like, why would I pick UATX over MIT?
That's a great question. So I'll get to the STEM bit in a minute, but I will tell you that one thing that ought to draw any student is these axioms we're choosing. That I think that there are many places, and I can't speak to MIT, but I think there are many places that students might go, and they're not going to find that they're free to lay their ideas on the table for interrogation, where we interrogate the idea, not the person, right? And so I think that that's a very attractive feature. But in the sciences, particularly, like I mentioned, we're going to go after this 21st century approach where we're going to embed much more computational thinking into the STEM program, and I think that's going to look different than the way other programs look. We're going to be much more intensely engaged with industry than other universities. I expect that we're going to set the industry standard for what it looks like to have university students engaged in their fields of interest outside of the doors of the school. And then finally, in the, you mentioned your friend that wants to be a computer scientist, that area of computational science and data science and sort of mathematical sciences, that's going to be an early area of excellence that we go after. So the upper level courses that we build, the earliest ones of those are going to be in areas where we're digging into sort of much higher levels of study in those particular areas. So I think a student who wants to study computer science somewhere would be very, very happy with the upper level courses we're going to offer here. My early senior hires in STEM are all computer scientists. We're going to go in early in that area because we believe that it's important in and of itself, but becoming very capable in the areas of computer science is pretty robust. The steps from computing and data science to these other areas are fairly small, and I think that's going to be good for students because it'll give more options.
So it seems like if you're a student who's a builder, the environment is here to kind of, you can forge your own path here, and all the support will be provided to you.
You can go to a place that's been built, or you can come be part of the building. I admire, Dylan, about you and your classmates. You're coming to the university that we all build. The we includes you. And when you guys walk across the stage of graduation, you can look in your wake, and you're going to see a place that you had a huge influence on and part of building. That alone would draw me. If I were in your shoes, that would strike me as being exciting because it's building a thing that lasts beyond you.
Yeah.
Right? One thing that I will do here in STEM is that whenever it's time for me to go to pasture, no one should notice, right? Because we built a thing that lasts beyond us. And I think that's a part of flourishing as a human, is to build things that last beyond our last breath. And so you guys are all going to do that. And you guys and gals are going to do that. That's super exciting.
I'll pick it up as this. This is the last question
Okay.
here. What do you hope to see that like faculty and students will be able to create together in this first year, specifically for the STEM Center?
When you are in the Navy, you operate on ships. And so ships have these two modes. One is when they're tied to the pier. So they're still fully a ship. They've been built. They float. But they're tied to the pier. They're not doing their mission yet. And there's a magical moment when you take in all lines, everybody that's going to be involved in the mission is on board. The ship goes from being static to dynamic. You take those lines in, and suddenly the ship is underway. In fact, we say underway, shift colors. We sound a whistle or a horn in a certain way, and things have changed. And now you know that you are on a warship that is underway to do a mission. We are taking in lines on September 9th.
Yeah.
That's going to be a magical moment. What I'm hoping to see is students and faculty that have this excitement that we're getting to start learning how to learn anew again. I'm hopeful that students and faculty together feel like they're in a learning community where there's dynamic engagement, where students and faculty in the classroom are communicating and engaged, and there's this vibrancy, and in the library and in the sort of common areas and things like that. I think it should feel like there's learning energy that's palpable. That's what I want to see, learning energy that's palpable. I think we're all going to get to learn a lot about each other, and I expect we're all going to like each other quite a bit as people. And so I think building this learning community is more than just doing class together, right? I think it's growing to appreciate each other's dignity and their strengths and their value, and because we're starting small and we're starting new, I think there's going to be just this extra element of let's get to know each other and do great things together. So I can't wait. Let's bring in those lines and get underway.